The mirror in my mother's dimly lit bedroom seemed to pulse with a forbidden glow that evening, as if it knew the secret I was about to unravel within myself, my hands trembling while slipping into the delicate lace that wasn't mine to touch. It started innocently enough, or at least that's what I told myself in those frantic whispers of inner turmoil, a rainy afternoon alone in the house, the kind where boredom creeps in like fog through cracked windows, urging me toward drawers I had no business exploring. I was 19, home from college for the weekend, feeling that familiar ache of not quite fitting into the world around me, like a puzzle piece jammed into the wrong spot. My reflection had always been a stranger. Sharp jawline, broad shoulders, the stubble that scratched like a reminder of expectations I couldn't meet. But there, in her room, surrounded by the faint scent of lavender and vanilla from her perfumes, I found the drawer half open, as if inviting me. The fabrics called out, soft, shimmering, worlds away from the rough denim and cotton tees that defined my daily armor. My heart raced with a mix of guilt and exhilaration as I held up a pair of sheer stockings, their whisper against my fingertips igniting something deep, unspoken. Why now? Why this pull? I couldn't articulate it then, just a gnawing curiosity that had simmered for years, buried under layers of be a man, echoes from schoolyards and family dinners. I hesitated, glancing at the clock. Mom wouldn't be home for hours, or so I thought. The house creaked in the storm outside, amplifying my isolation, making the act feel both reckless and necessary. Slipping off my clothes felt like shedding an old skin, vulnerable and raw, my mind flooding with doubts. What if this changes everything? What if I'm not who I think I am? The stockings glided up my legs with an unexpected grace, hugging curves I didn't know I had, transforming the ordinary into something ethereal. Next came the lingerie, a simple black slip with lace trim, cool against my warming skin, draping in ways that softened my edges, blurred the lines I'd always seen as rigid. I twisted in front of the mirror, watching the fabric sway, and for the first time, a flicker of recognition stared back. Not the boy I'd been raised as, but someone softer, more aligned with the whispers in my soul. Emotions crashed over me like waves, shame for invading her privacy, thrill at the fit that felt tailor-made, confusion over why this brought such peace amid the chaos. My inner voice argued fiercely, "This is wrong. Turn back." Yet another part pleaded, "Just a moment longer. See who you could be." As I adjusted the straps, experimenting with poses that felt foreign yet instinctive, a surge of identity conflict hit hard. Who was this person emerging? Not the son my mother raised with stories of strong men and family legacies, but someone fluid, questioning the binary I'd been handed. My breath quickened, cheeks flushing not just from embarrassment, but from a budding acceptance that scared me. I reached for her makeup bag on the vanity, fingers brushing lipsticks and powders like artifacts from another life. A dab of foundation smoothed my skin, erasing the roughness. Eyeliner accentuated eyes I'd always thought too plain. Each stroke was a revelation, building layers of a new self, but with every addition came a twist of anxiety. What if someone sees? What if this isn't a phase? The room spun slightly, the storm outside mirroring my internal tempest, thunder rumbling as if judging my every move. Then, the unthinkable, keys jingling in the front door, earlier than expected. Panic seized me, a cold grip around my chest, as I froze mid-application of blush. Footsteps echoed up the stairs, slow, deliberate, my mother's familiar rhythm. Hide, change back. Too late. The door swung open, and there she stood, groceries in hand, her eyes widening in a split second that stretched into eternity. Time halted. My reflection in her gaze was a mosaic of surprise, confusion, and something unreadable. "What? Oh, honey," she whispered, setting the bags down with a thud that echoed my pounding heart. I braced for anger, for disappointment, but instead, she stepped closer, her expression softening into a blend of curiosity and tenderness I'd never seen directed at me like this. You look..." Her voice trailed off, and I held my breath, the suspense coiling tighter than the lace around me. Her words hung in the air, unfinished, as if she were searching for a language to bridge the chasm between us, her eyes tracing the silhouette of the slip that clung to me like a second skin. My throat tightened, words trapped behind a wall of fear and anticipation, expecting judgment but finding none in her gaze, only a flicker of something that looked like awe, or maybe recognition. "You look better than I ever did in that," she said finally, a nervous laugh breaking the tension, her voice soft but weighted with an emotion I couldn't pin down. My knees buckled slightly, the absurdity of the moment colliding with the raw vulnerability of being seen, not just seen, but exposed in a way I hadn't prepared for. I wanted to shrink, to vanish into the floorboards, but her smile, tentative yet warm, anchored me. The storm outside roared on, rain lashing the windows, but in that room, a different kind of electricity crackled, a quiet understanding forming where I'd braced for rejection. I stammered, trying to explain, but the words felt clumsy, inadequate. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to. What? Try it on? Be someone else? Find myself? I didn't even know the truth myself, only that this moment felt like a hinge on which my entire identity swung. She stepped closer, setting the groceries on the bed, her movements deliberate, like she was approaching a startled animal. "It's okay, sweetheart," she said, her voice a lifeline. "You don't have to explain. Not yet." Her acceptance was a shockwave, unraveling years of internalized rules about who I was supposed to be. Yet, beneath the relief, a new tension coiled. How could she be so calm when I was a mess of contradictions, standing in her lingerie, my face half-painted, my heart a battlefield? She sat on the edge of the bed, patting the space beside her, and I hesitated before sinking down, the slip rustling softly, a reminder of the line I'd crossed. "I used to play dress-up too," she said, her eyes distant, as if pulling a memory from the attic of her past. "Not like this, maybe, but I'd try on my mother's dresses, her heels, pretending I was someone grander. It's how we figure things out, isn't it?" Her words were a balm, but they also stirred a deeper question. Was this just play? Or was it something more, a truth I'd been dodging my whole life? I looked at her, searching for judgment, but found only curiosity, maybe even pride, and it twisted something inside me. How could she see beauty where I saw chaos? The mirror across the room caught my eye again, reflecting a version of me that felt both alien and achingly familiar. My shoulders, usually squared to carry the weight of expectations, softened under the lace. My eyes, lined with kohl, seemed to hold stories I hadn't yet told. But the thrill of discovery was laced with dread. What did this mean for me, for us, for the world outside this room? I wanted to ask her, to spill every doubt and fear, but the words stayed locked away, replaced by a trembling smile. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face, her touch grounding me in a way I hadn't expected. "You're still you," she whispered, as if reading my mind. "No matter what you wear." But was I? The question lingered, sharp and insistent, as the storm outside began to quiet, leaving only the echo of my racing pulse. In that fragile silence, her words echoed like a gentle ripple across a still pond, stirring depths I hadn't dared to explore, making me wonder if she truly saw me or the illusion I'd crafted in her absence. I shifted on the bed, the lace whispering against the comforter, a sound that amplified my unease, as if the fabric itself was conspiring to reveal more than I was ready to share. "But Mom," I finally managed, my voice barely above a hush, laced with the vulnerability of a child confessing a hidden dream. "This feels right, in a way nothing else has. And that terrifies me." Her hand paused midair, then settled on mine, warm and steady, a contrast to the chill of doubt creeping through my veins. She didn't pull away, didn't recoil. Instead, she squeezed gently, her eyes meeting mine with a depth that spoke of her own unspoken battles. "Terrified is okay," she replied, her tone woven with threads of empathy I'd never heard before. "It's the first step toward understanding." I remember feeling that way about choices I made long ago, ones that didn't fit the mold everyone expected. As we sat there, the room bathed in the softening light of the waning storm, a twist unfolded in my chest, not rejection, but an invitation to unravel. She stood slowly, moving to her closet with purpose, and pulled out a few items, a flowing skirt, a blouse with subtle embroidery, holding them up like offerings. "If you're exploring," she said, a hint of mischief in her smile that caught me off guard, "why stop at the basics? Let's see what suits you." The suggestion hung suspended, a suspenseful pivot that made my pulse quicken anew. Part of me recoiled, fearing this would solidify the shift, make it irreversible. Another part leaped at the chance, hungry for more of that fleeting alignment I'd tasted. I nodded, tentative, and she helped me layer the pieces, her guidance patient, like teaching a dance I'd always known but forgotten the steps to. The skirt swished around my legs, transforming my stance into something graceful, and the blouse draped softly, easing the rigidity I'd carried for years. But as I twirled experimentally, catching glimpses in the mirror, a wave of social dread crashed in. What would friends say? Family? The world beyond these walls, with its unyielding gaze? My mind raced through scenarios, whispers in hallways, stares at gatherings, the isolation of being different, in a town that prized conformity like a badge. What if this isn't just for now? I voiced the fear aloud, my reflection showing eyes wide with uncertainty. She paused, folding her arms thoughtfully. "Then we face it together. But first, let's see how it feels in the light of day, or at least the kitchen light." Her light-hearted nudge masked a deeper current, one that hinted at her own hurdles with acceptance, perhaps from her youth, stories she'd never shared until now. Descending the stairs felt like stepping into a new realm, each creak underfoot amplifying the transformation's weight, my movements more fluid, more intentional. In the kitchen, under the warm glow of pendant lights, she poured tea, the steam curling like unspoken questions. As we sipped, conversation flowed in unexpected turns, her reminiscing about a time she defied expectations by pursuing art over a stable job, me admitting the loneliness of feeling out of place in my own skin. Yet, beneath the warmth, tension simmered. A phone buzzed on the counter, a text from my sister, reminding me of the family dinner tomorrow. How would I navigate that? The thought twisted like a knot, blending excitement with apprehension, as the evening deepened into a tapestry of revelations neither of us had anticipated. That night stretched into a labyrinth of confessions and quiet revelations, the tea cooling in our cups as I sat there in the borrowed skirt and blouse, feeling the fabric's gentle embrace like a shield against the judgments I imagined lurking in every shadow. The kitchen clock ticked relentlessly, each second a reminder that this cocoon of understanding couldn't last forever, and as Mom shared fragments of her own youthful rebellions, defying her parents to travel alone, choosing creativity over convention, a subtle shift occurred within me, like puzzle pieces clicking into place after years of misalignment. Yet, even as warmth bloomed from her stories, an undercurrent of self-doubt tugged at me. Was this acceptance genuine, or a temporary balm to ease the shock? I traced the embroidery on the blouse with my fingertip, the threads intricate and unyielding, mirroring the tangled emotions weaving through my mind, elation at being seen without scorn, mingled with a gnawing fear that embracing this side of me would fracture the life I'd built on fragile foundations. She noticed my distraction, setting her cup down with a soft clink that echoed in the hushed space. "What's swirling in that head of yours?" she asked, her voice a gentle probe into the storm I harbored. I hesitated, the words bubbling up like confessions long suppressed. "I keep thinking about tomorrow. The dinner with everyone. What if I can't go back to pretending? What if this version of me slips out?" The vulnerability in my admission hung heavy, a suspenseful veil over the conversation, as her expression flickered with a mix of concern and resolve. Instead of dismissing it, she leaned forward, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "Then maybe it's time to stop pretending altogether," she said, the words landing like a plot twist I hadn't seen coming, challenging the narrative I'd scripted for myself. But how? The idea sparked a flicker of hope, yet it was laced with hurdles, visions of awkward silences at the table, questioning glances from relatives who prized tradition above all. As the evening waned, we migrated to the living room, where the dim lamp cast elongated shadows that danced like unspoken fears across the walls. She suggested a small experiment, practicing poise, walking in heels she'd fetched from her collection, each step a tentative exploration of balance, not just physical, but emotional. The click-clack on the hardwood floor amplified my inner dialogue, a chorus of encouragement clashing with whispers of inadequacy. You move like you've always known this rhythm. No, you're stumbling, exposed, ridiculous. Mom watched with a patient smile, offering tips that felt like keys to locked doors within me, but each successful stride brought a new emotional turn, a surge of confidence undercut by the realization that this joy came at the cost of confronting my identity head-on. What if acceptance from her was the exception, not the rule? The thought coiled tighter, building tension as the clock neared midnight, the outside world pressing in through the darkened windows. In a moment of unexpected candor, she shared a photo from her youth, tucked away in a drawer, a faded Polaroid of her in unconventional attire for her era, a bold pantsuit amid a sea of dresses at a family event. They whispered too, she said, her voice tinged with a resilience that inspired yet intimidated me. But I wore it anyway. And you? You're radiant in ways I could only dream of. Her compliment, delivered with such sincerity, twisted the knife of my internal conflict, gratitude warring with the fear of outshining, of disrupting the familial harmony she'd nurtured. As we hugged goodnight, the fabric between us a bridge rather than a barrier, I climbed the stairs with a heart full of swirling possibilities, the night's events a catalyst for a journey I hadn't chosen but could no longer ignore, leaving me on the precipice of dawn's uncertain light. Dawn broke with a hesitant light filtering through my curtains, painting the room in hues of soft gold that mirrored the fragile hope budding within me, yet shadowed by the unresolved questions that had kept me tossing through the night. I lay there, still in the blouse and skirt from the evening before, the fabrics now wrinkled like the creases of my furrowed thoughts, wondering if the acceptance I'd glimpsed was a dream or a doorway to something irreversible. The mirror on my dresser reflected a disheveled version of that newfound self, hair tousled, makeup smudged, but beneath the imperfections, a spark of authenticity glowed, challenging the boy I'd woken as for so long. Emotions swirled in a vortex, gratitude for Mom's unwavering support clashing with an undercurrent of apprehension about the family dinner looming like a storm cloud on the horizon. How could I step into that gathering, carrying this secret that felt too vast to contain, too delicate to expose? Slipping out of bed, I padded downstairs, the heels from last night abandoned for bare feet that grounded me in reality, each step a negotiation between who I'd been and who I was becoming. The kitchen hummed with morning routines, coffee brewing, toast popping, and there she was, humming a tune from her youth, her back to me as she prepared breakfast. The normalcy of it all twisted the tension tighter. It was as if last night hadn't shattered the facade, yet everything felt altered, charged with unspoken potential. "Morning, beautiful," she said without turning, her voice light but laced with intention, catching me off guard and sending a flush of warmth through my cheeks. Beautiful? The word, so casually bestowed, ignited a fresh wave of identity conflict. Did I deserve it, or was it pity disguised as kindness? I murmured a response, sliding into a chair, my inner dialogue raging. Embrace it. It's what you've craved. No, question it. Nothing this profound comes without cost. Over eggs and conversation that danced around the edges of deeper truths, she proposed a quiet outing, just the two of us, to a nearby boutique known for its eclectic styles, a place where boundaries blurred and self-expression reigned. The idea dangled like a suspenseful lure, promising exploration but risking exposure in public eyes. My heart raced at the prospect. Stepping out as this evolving self, even subtly, could be liberating or devastating. What if someone recognizes us? I voiced the fear, my fork pausing midair. She met my gaze with a steady calm. Then they see the real you, And if they're worth knowing, they'll celebrate it. Her words were a balm, but they unearthed a new emotional turn, a realization that my journey wasn't solitary. It rippled into her world too, challenging her role as protector in ways she hadn't anticipated. We ventured out after I changed into something androgynous, a loose sweater over jeans, with subtle touches like a scarf she'd lent, its silk whispering secrets against my neck. The boutique was a haven of colors and textures, racks brimming with garments that defied labels, and as I browsed, fingers grazing satins and velvets, a twist unfolded. An old acquaintance from high school spotted us, her eyes lighting up in recognition. Panic surged, a cold wave threatening to drown the budding confidence, as she approached with cheerful greetings. Would she see through the veneer? Question the changes? The interaction stretched taut, every word a potential unraveling, but she chatted obliviously, complimenting the scarf as stylish, unaware of the earthquake it represented. Relief washed over me as she left, but it was fleeting. The encounter highlighted the social tightrope I'd be walking, where acceptance hung by threads as fine as the fabrics surrounding us. Back in the car, the boutique's bags rustling in the back seat like accomplices to our secret adventure, I stared out at the passing streets, the world blurring into a mosaic of normalcy that now felt distant, unattainable. The scarf around my neck, a subtle remnant of the day's explorations, brushed my skin with every bump in the road, a tactile reminder of the boundaries I'd pushed and the emotional undercurrents that pulled me deeper into uncharted waters. Mom hummed along to the radio, her fingers tapping the wheel in rhythm, but I sensed a shift in her, a quiet introspection mirroring my own, as if our shared outing had unearthed layers in both of us. That was fun, she said eventually, glancing over with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, hinting at the unspoken weight of what we'd stirred. Fun? It had been exhilarating, terrifying, a cocktail of emotions that left me buoyant yet adrift, questioning if this path towards self-acceptance was a straight line or a maze riddled with dead ends. Arriving home, I unpacked the few items we'd chosen, a pair of earrings that caught the light like captured stars, a belt that cinched waists with elegant precision, each one a small rebellion against the wardrobe of conformity waiting upstairs. As I tried them on in the privacy of my room, the mirror became a confidant once more, reflecting not just changes in appearance, but the psychological ripples, cheeks that flushed with a mix of pride and trepidation, eyes that held a newfound depth, as if seeing the world through a lens I'd long ignored. Yet, tension mounted with the approaching family dinner, a gathering that loomed like an audition for a role I no longer wanted. My inner voice fractured into debates, show up as the son they expect, safe but suffocating, or hint at the truth, risking the fragile equilibrium of family bonds. The earrings dangled, catching my earlobe in a pinch that echoed the sting of potential rejection. Mom knocked softly, entering with a tray of snacks, her expression a blend of maternal concern and ally's resolve. "Nervous about tonight?" she asked, settling beside me on the bed, the mattress dipping under our combined weight like the sinking feeling in my stomach. I nodded, words spilling out in a rush, the fear of judgmental aunts, the cousins who'd tease without mercy, the grandfather whose stories of real men had shaped my early insecurities. She listened, her hand on my knee a steady anchor, then shared a twist from her past, a family event where she'd worn something bold, only to face whispers that echoed for years. It hurt, she admitted, her voice cracking slightly, revealing a vulnerability that humanized her beyond the role of parent. But it also freed me. And seeing you today? You're braver than I was at your age. Her words twisted the narrative, turning my fear into a potential legacy of courage, yet they amplified the stakes. What if my emergence disrupted not just me, but her hard-won peace? As evening descended, we prepared side by side, her helping me select an outfit that blended subtlety with authenticity, a shirt with softer lines, pants that allowed for grace. The drive to my aunt's house was a suspenseful interlude, radio chatter filling the silence, while my mind rehearsed scenarios, each more harrowing than the last. Pulling up, the The house glowed with lights and laughter spilling from windows, a facade of warmth that masked my internal chill. Stepping inside, greetings enveloped us, but I felt exposed, as if every glance peeled back layers, searching for the change they couldn't yet name. Dinner unfolded in waves, small talk cresting into deeper waters, and when a cousin complimented my new style, the room paused, a collective breath held, my heart pounding in the charged air, wondering if this was the moment everything shifted irrevocably. The cousin's words sliced through the chatter like a sudden hush in a crowded theater, leaving forks suspended and eyes darting toward me, the weight of their collective gaze pressing down like an invisible hand on my chest. I forced a smile, the kind that masks a whirlwind, as heat crept up my neck, blending with the subtle makeup I'd applied earlier, a light touch, just enough to soften features without screaming change. "Thanks," I managed, my voice steadier than I felt, but inside, turmoil raged. Was this compliment a genuine nod or a veiled probe, the first crack in the dam of family secrets? The room lingered in that suspended moment, conversations teetering on the edge of resumption, until my aunt chimed in with a laugh, diverting to the food, and the tension eased like a receding tide, leaving me breathless yet intact. But the seed was planted. Glances lingered a beat longer, questions unspoken hanging in the air like smoke from the candles flickering on the table. As plates passed and stories flowed, tales of vacations and work woes, I navigated the evening with a heightened awareness, each laugh a potential mask, each hug a test of authenticity. Mom caught my eye across the table, her subtle nod a silent reassurance, but it stirred a deeper emotional layer. Gratitude for her as my quiet guardian, mingled with guilt that my evolution might burden her with explanations she hadn't sought. A twist came midway through dessert, when grandfather, with his gravelly voice steeped in decades of tradition, leaned in and said, "You're looking sharp, kid, got a bit of flair now." His words, meant as praise, twisted the knife of identity conflict. Sharp? Flair? They echoed the man he expected, yet skirted the truth budding beneath. I nodded, swallowing the urge to clarify, to peel back the layers and reveal the fluidity I discovered, but fear held me back, the hurdle of self-acceptance clashing with the dread of fracturing this fragile harmony. The drive home was a decompression chamber, the cars hum a backdrop to my racing thoughts, replaying every interaction like a film reel searching for flaws. "You handled that beautifully," Mom said, her voice cutting through the night, but her tone carried an undercurrent of her own reflections, perhaps reliving her past defiances in my present. I turned to her, the dashboard lights casting shadows that deepened the lines of concern on her face. Did I? It felt like walking a wire, one wrong step, and... My words trailed off, the unspoken fallout, a family rift, lost connections, looming large. She reached over, squeezing my hand. "Wires lead somewhere worth going. And tonight, no one fell." Her optimism was a lifeline, yet it amplified my internal suspense. What if tomorrow brought bolder steps, ones that couldn't be subtle? Settling into bed later, the earrings from the boutique glinting on my nightstand like talismans, I traced the day's emotional arcs, the high of subtle triumphs at dinner, the low of suppressed truths, and felt a budding resolve. Sleep came fitfully, dreams weaving scenarios of fuller expression, each one a psychological depth charge exploding with possibilities and perils, leaving me to wake with a heart ready to chase the dawn's promise, even as shadows of doubt lingered in the corners. As the evening's remnants faded into quiet conversations and goodbyes, the front door clicking shut behind the last relative like the closing of a chapter one wasn't ready to end, I lingered in the hallway, the subtle shirt's fabric clinging to me as a reminder of the evening's unspoken undercurrents. My heart still echoed the rhythm of that paused moment at the table, where curiosity had flickered in their eyes but hadn't ignited into confrontation, leaving me in a limbo of relief laced with anticipation. What would tomorrow bring, when whispers might evolve into questions? Mom's hand on my shoulder grounded me as we drove away, the streetlights streaking past like fleeting judgments, and in the car's confined space, emotions unfurled, a quiet triumph at having navigated the gathering without shattering, yet a persistent ache of incompleteness, as if I'd only skimmed the surface of my truth. Home welcomed us with its familiar hush, the boutique finds waiting like promises unkept, and as I changed into pajamas that now felt too plain, too confining, my mind replayed grandfather's words, sharp, flare, twisting them into a mirror of my internal strife. Was his approval a bridge or a barrier, accepting the veneer while ignoring the depth? Sleep evaded me that night, replaced by a cascade of inner dialogues, visions of bolder expressions clashing with fears of isolation, the psychological weight of self-acceptance pressing like a crown of thorns. Dawn crept in again, but this time with a clarity sharpened by the previous day's trials, urging me toward a decision that simmered just below the surface. Over breakfast, Mom's gaze held a new layer of alliance, as if the family dinner had forged us closer in shared vulnerability. "How are you feeling after last night?" she asked, her coffee cup midway to her lips, the steam curling like the uncertainties between us. I hesitated, then let the words flow, a torrent of gratitude mixed with the hurdle of wanting more, of craving spaces where I could fully embody this emerging self without the veil of subtlety. Her response was a twist that caught my breath. "There's a support group in the city for people exploring identities like this. I looked it up while you were sleeping." The revelation hung there, suspenseful and inviting, a doorway to community that promised understanding but risked the unknown, strangers' stories mirroring mine, or perhaps highlighting differences that could deepen my doubts. We decided to go that afternoon, the drive a tapestry of nervous chatter and silent reflections, each mile unraveling more of my guarded heart. Arriving at the community center, the room buzzed with quiet energy, faces of all ages, expressions ranging from tentative smiles to confident poise, and as we settled into chairs arranged in a circle, a wave of social challenge washed over me, sharing my story aloud, exposing the raw edges of my journey to empathetic yet unfamiliar eyes. The facilitator's warm welcome eased the tension slightly, but when my turn came, words faltered at first, then spilled like a dam breaking. The discovery in her drawer, the mirror's revelations, the family's subtle shifts. Responses came in nods and shared anecdotes, a chorus that validated without overwhelming, yet each story twisted my perspective, revealing hurdles I'd yet to face, workplace dynamics, romantic entanglements, the long road to inner peace. Mom sat beside me, her presence a silent pillar, but I caught the glint of tears in her eyes, not sorrow, but a profound emotional turn, as if witnessing my growth unlocked her own unresolved threads. Leaving the support group, the evening air carried a crispness that mirrored the clarity settling over me, each step away from the center feeling like shedding another layer of hesitation, though the echoes of shared stories lingered like ghosts in my thoughts. Mom walked beside me, her arm linked with mine in a gesture that felt both protective and partnership-like, the city's lights blurring past as we drove home. But inside the car, a new tension brewed, not from fear, but from the raw exposure of having voiced my truths to strangers who nodded in kinship. Their tales had woven into mine. One spoke of fractured friendships reclaimed through honesty, another of workplace whispers that faded into acceptance, each narrative a psychological mirror reflecting my own hurdles, amplifying the emotional depth of my journey. Yet, as empowering as it was, a subtle twist gnawed at me. What if this community became a crutch, a safe haven that delayed facing the wider world? Back home, we unpacked the day's revelations over herbal tea in the dimly lit kitchen, the steam rising like the unspoken questions between us. "Hearing you speak tonight," she said, her voice thick with a pride that caught in her throat. It was like watching a flower bloom after a long winter. Her metaphor stirred something profound, a surge of connection that battled the lingering identity conflict. Was I blooming, or merely adapting to survive? I shared the mix of elation and apprehension, the group's validation fueling a desire to experiment further, perhaps with hairstyles or accessories that pushed boundaries I'd once deemed uncrossable. But her eyes, glistening in the low light, revealed her own internal turn. "I worry too, you know." Not about you, but about the world not seeing what I see. Her admission twisted the narrative, transforming her from supporter to fellow traveler, her fears echoing mine in a harmony that deepened our bond yet heightened the stakes of my self-acceptance. The following days blurred into a rhythm of small victories and subtle challenges, like trying a wig she'd ordered online, its strands framing my face in ways that softened the angles I'd long resented, each glance in the mirror a cinematic replay of transformation. Social ripples emerged, a text from my sister, casual yet probing, about my new vibe at dinner, forcing a conversation that teetered on revelation without fully tipping. Tension coiled during a coffee run alone, where a barista's lingering smile sparked paranoia. Did they see through me, or was it simple kindness? My inner dialogue intensified, a barrage of affirmations clashing with doubts, but amid it all, a budding resilience grew, watered by Mom's unwavering presence and the group's lingering echoes. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows like impatient fingers, an unexpected emotional crest arrived, a letter from an old friend, rediscovered through social media, inviting reconnection. The prospect dangled suspensefully, meet as the old me, or introduce the evolving self. I confided in Mom, her counsel a gentle push toward authenticity, but the decision weighed heavy, a hurdle that promised growth or grief, leaving me on the edge of a choice that could redefine everything I'd uncovered. As the letter from my old friend sat open on my desk, its ink blurring slightly under the lamp's glow from where I'd read it thrice over, a quiet resolve took root amid the storm of possibilities it unleashed, making me wonder if reconnections were bridges to the past or gateways to a future I'd only begun to envision. The words were warm, reminiscing about shared school days and lost touch, but they carried an undercurrent that amplified my inner conflict, respond as the echo of who I'd been, or weave in threads of the self I'd uncovered, risking the fragility of old bonds. Mom leaned against the doorframe, her presence a steady hum in the room's hush, as I voiced the dilemma. The fear of judgment from someone who'd known the old me, the hurdle of explaining transformations that words alone might falter to capture. Her eyes softened with a wisdom earned from her own unspoken regrets. "Friendships worth keeping evolve with us," she said, her tone a gentle nudge toward the precipice, but it twisted with my own doubts. What if evolution meant endings? The next morning brought a crisp autumn breeze through the open window, carrying scents of fallen leaves that mirrored the shedding I felt within as I drafted a reply on my laptop, fingers hovering over keys like dancers uncertain of the stage. Each sentence was a psychological tightrope, casual updates laced with hints of change, a photo attached of me in the softer shirt from dinner, my expression a blend of vulnerability and quiet defiance. Hitting send felt like releasing a breath held too long, suspense coiling in the wait for a response that could affirm or unravel. Hours stretched into an emotional labyrinth, checking my inbox obsessively, inner dialogue swinging from optimism to dread, visions of acceptance clashing with silence's sting. When the reply pinged in, my heart stuttered, enthusiastic words, questions about the new look, an invitation to meet for coffee that dangled like a plot turn I hadn't scripted. We met at a quaint cafe downtown, the aroma of fresh brews mingling with my nerves as I arrived early, adjusting the earrings that now felt like armor rather than adornment, each clink a reminder of the journey that led here. My friend appeared, unchanged in ways that highlighted my shifts, and as we hugged, her eyes widened slightly, taking in the subtle grace of my posture, the way fabrics draped with intention. "You seem different in the best way," she said over lattes, her curiosity genuine, sparking a conversation that flowed into depths I'd braced to defend. Sharing snippets, the drawer discovery, Mom's surprising alliance, the group's communal warmth, unfolded with unexpected ease, her nods and stories of her own self-discoveries twisting the tension into connection, a social challenge met with empathy that eased my self-acceptance hurdles. Yet, as we parted with promises of more meetups, a fresh emotional wave crested, the realization that each step forward rippled outward, inviting more eyes, more questions, but also more allies. Back home, Mom waited with tea and open ears, her pride evident as I recounted the afternoon, but her hug held a lingering tightness, as if she sensed the journey's end was merely another beginning, leaving us both on the cusp of whatever twists lay ahead in this tapestry of becoming. With the cafe's warmth fading behind me like a chapter closing on tentative alliances, I walked home under a canopy of twilight skies streaked with amber, each step resonating with the day's revelations and the subtle shifts they promised, wondering if this reconnection was a harbinger of broader acceptance or merely an isolated beacon in the fog of my evolving world. Days turned into weeks, a montage of incremental boldnesses, venturing out with fuller expressions, like a dress that flowed like liquid silk during a solo park walk, its hem brushing leaves in a rhythm that synced with my quickening pulse. Social challenges mounted, a neighbor's double-take, a store clerk's hesitant compliment that teetered between sincerity and confusion, each interaction a suspenseful test of resilience, chipping away at the walls of my self-doubt while exposing fresh vulnerabilities. My inner voice, once a cacophony of conflict, began harmonizing into something cohesive, affirmations that this fluidity wasn't a flaw but a facet, gleaming under the light of hard-won insights. Mom became my compass in this uncharted terrain, our evenings filled with debriefs that peeled back layers of her own history, a youthful romance stifled by societal molds, choices she'd regretted until seeing them reflected in my courage. One crisp afternoon, as golden leaves swirled like confetti outside, a profound twist arrived unannounced, a package at the door, addressed to me from her, containing a custom piece, lingerie redesigned with my input from whispered conversations, its lace intricate yet sturdy, symbolizing not just attire, but her full embrace of my journey. Tears blurred my vision as I held it, emotions cresting in a wave of gratitude and release, the psychological depth of her gesture dissolving the last remnants of identity hurdles, affirming that I wasn't just accepted, but celebrated in ways that redefined our bond. Emboldened, I shared more widely, posts on private forums, tentative outreach to extended family, each revelation an emotional turn that brought mixtures of support and silence, the latter stinging like autumn chill but teaching the art of selective vulnerability. The mirror, once a battleground, became a sanctuary, reflecting a self-integrated and radiant, where external changes mirrored the inner peace I'd fought for. And in a final, unexpected surge, as I stood there one evening, draped in that gift, Mom's voice from the doorway whispered, "You don't just look better, you are more you than ever." Her words the culmination of our shared odyssey, leaving me with a heart full, curiosity sated, and a future unfolding like the dawn after a transformative night.